And so what we took from this is that what prediction errors are doing is they're sort of like creating this kind of what's called a context boundary. They're sort of telling you, listen, something has changed in the world, and everything that happened before leads to this, and everything that happens after comes from this, right? And it's
Yes.
kind of creating a kind of restructuring your memory in that way. And even at this, the level of like, the difference between 10 cents and 90 cents, right? So you can imagine when it's a surprising, highly salient, very vivid experience that involves lots of sensory and social cues, like for instance, the first time, you do drugs or get high or
Yeah.
something like that can end up restructuring your memory in a really interesting way is the idea. And so we are beginning experiments that kind of move in this direction, trying to assess the prediction error quality of drug-related memories and drug-related cues.
Actually, I asked you this, Aaron, in 2013, maybe. I remember this explicitly.
Brain on this one.
Well, because this was something important to me, because I was thinking about my own life at the time. It was like, while I was applying to grad school, and I was thinking like 9/11 is a significant moment in my life. I actually do have PTSD from it technically or whatever, but I had been thinking about what it meant, and I called it like the 0 point, where I felt like every time I would think about a date, I would do it in reference to that. And I was asking you, I was like, do you have any 0 points in your life like that? And I think you said a graduation or something. But now that you say that with the prediction error, it makes so much sense. And it also leads into a question I had about like, a lot of this, like the theory that you've been discussing sounds a lot like theories of PTSD as well, but it's just like, negative coding instead of positive. And I would be curious on what both of you think about that. Sorry, go for it.
Oh, well, for me, I think that's actually, I mean, Aaron, what you said, actually, what both of you said made a lot of sense to me. In terms of my own experience, like I do sort of section off my life. I mean, obviously this isn't just about memory, but like the way I think of my life is like the big turning point in it. It was me becoming a junkie. Like everything before that was sort of leading to that, and everything after that was leading away from that or through that, I guess, until the present. But that's like the big demarcation line, which is funny because when I first started using, nothing that spectacular happened. I just used Oxycontin for like a year. But I still like that is sort of how I measure it in a way. And like, there's a sort of common phrase you hear, I don't even think it's an AA thing at all. It's just like something you hear in sobriety about how when you can kind of like you stop sort of maturing once you start using drugs, which I always thought was really corny, but now I see there's obviously it's not true, literally true, but like it is true in a sense, especially with some people. And with me as well. Like I missed some really crucial years of development because I was taking OC80s and listening to television or whatever and like thinking I was Lou Reed. But yeah, I know I would say like it's like a vivid flashpoint of memory. Like there's a lot of memories associated with that particular time. And then after that, they get fuzzier and fuzzier. Even before that, it's like fuzzier and fuzzier. But that is like a huge sort of cornucopia of memory.
So PTSD is definitely a disorder that people think of as a memory disorder, right? But not really. People have talked about addiction being related to episodic and long-term memory for quite some time. And so the thing that I think that this gets at is something that I think is maybe not the worst possible outcome for PTSD extinction, but maybe very important for addiction, which is that if you use these kinds of treatments, you're not going to delete memories. What you are going to do is create this kind of like suppression, but you're not going to change all of the memories that were associated with that, all the semantic concepts that you have associated with that, right? These are not, suddenly you're not going to delete memories. You're going to maybe create islands of memories, which can then be triggered in different ways. And that might be perhaps more meaningful for addiction, where, in the case of alcohol, like you said, the triggers are everywhere. And that, I think, points to a different kind of treatment, like the stuff that we talk about in the paper, where you're sort of focused on not trying to suppress the memory, but really keep it active and then use it as an anchoring point to build on these kinds of behaviors that the person says they want to engage in. That's my thought on the relationship to PTSD.
I mean, I'm just thinking about how, like, I do know a lot of people who their experience with addiction basically also gave them PTSD. I mean, I think even in that Righteous Dope Fiend, I might be wrong. It's been a really long time since I read it. Like, I think they maybe talk about that in there at some point, but
Yeah,
maybe
they do.
it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because living on the street, especially, I mean, can give you that, but also just being a junkie, you see. I mean, I saw really gnarly shit, and which is, funny because like when you're high, you don't really feel anything about it. You're like, oh my god, like he should let that woman go, but like you can't muster up any. But you're also like maybe like this. I need to get dope from this guy, and so I think it like some people have like just anecdotally, like I have like almost a delayed reaction to that. Like they'll have seen a bunch of really gnarly fucked up shit when they are a junkie. And then when they get sober, they're like, oh my God, like what the fuck did I see there? Or like, what did I do? Even for a lot of people. I mean, for me, I did bad stuff. I didn't do anything that's like, I didn't like physically hurt anybody or like, like anything like that. But like I stole a lot, stole from people I loved. I broke into houses. Like, I was a like tier 1, or not, excuse me, like a tier 3, like junkie criminal. Like I wasn't very good at it, but I tried my best. And when I got sober, I was like, I don't know I don't know what you would call this, because I still have guilt, like immense guilt that like guides a lot of my behavior, or at least looms over my life, and like I think about daily. That like I mean, it's not PTSD, but there is like a sort of I guess it's like lingering trauma there. But it's weird because I actually don't have like much trauma from other things in my life that I think would be called traumatic. But particularly only basically from like stuff I saw or did as like a dope fiend. And I see that a lot. And I think I think it makes the process of quitting dope harder for people, or whatever substance harder for people, because I mean, this is something that sort of ties into the 12-step thing, is you get sober, and then you have to deal with like your trauma from what you did or what you saw when you were, and those memories can be really vivid. It's funny because like my memories with junk are basically like extremely positive, rosy memories that are basically fake of when I first started. And then like weird flashes of like terrible things, or like like the worst I've ever felt in my entire life, or like seeing things that like I really should not have seen, and like people dying, all that kind of stuff. um and it's funny because I can't really connect to those memories in a junkie way. Like those memories, of course, were only happened because of what I was doing, but I don't think of them as part of my drug use. I think of them as just like a traumatic incident in my life. Whereas I think of the like hanging out in my room and like cleaning up and feeling happy, off of whatever pills, that is part of my drug use, and I can connect to that. So like if I have cravings right now, I don't think of like I mean, there's a lot of shit I can name, but I don't think of like really dark shit in Tenderloin SROs. Even though that is like an actual memories I have that I think about, on not daily, but every so often. Especially like I still can't go to the Tenderloin. Like I don't really like. I don't think I paid back a guy who I thought was gonna really hurt me a little bit after I got sober. And he actually cried and hugged me, which I thought was really sweet. But I haven't actually really walked through the TL, maybe more. I maybe one time since and I've been sober for 7 years next week actually. And so I mean those memories are really strong for me, and funnily enough, I first started getting high when I lived in the TL too, and so like I lived there for a long time. I don't know where I was going with this, but the PTSD and drug use I think are often intermixed. Well, on that note, tell me if you care about me, and if you care about yourself, and if you'll stop taking drugs, and if you'll stop being so hard, and if you'll stop being hard to talk to, and if you'll let me come inside.